Hello and welcome to what is actually my last installment in this long-running series called My Last Class. Today we're going to talk about the influence that foreign policy concerns can have on the electorate, speaking particularly about this current election in 2024. While American politicians do not have a reputation for harboring modest national aspirations, few have used the word empire to describe the United States' global mission. Yet it's indisputable that, particularly since the end of World War II, the United States has been the linchpin of the international system. It is thus unsurprising that isolationists have, in general, not been treated kindly by historians. The rogues gallery of those who wish to construct a, quote, Fortress America, a collection that included Charles Lindbergh, Senator Robert Taft, and Pat Buchanan, is familiar to most Americans. This disdain for those who have argued for the United States to stay out of what Thomas Jefferson called entangling alliances has not, however, led Americans to treat foreign affairs as a priority when they have cast their ballots in presidential elections. With the exceptions of 1864, when the U.S. held a presidential election during the Civil War, and those elections held during Americans' involvement in World Wars I and II, and finally the 1968 election, which was staged at the height of the Vietnam War. Most American voters have preferred to look homeward rather than abroad when contemplating how to cast their vote. Some political analysts and strategists are suggesting that 2024 may be different. The war in Ukraine and the conflict in Gaza have divided both parties. Many voices on the Republican right would like to terminate aid to Ukraine, while the Democratic Party is mindful that many young progressive voters believe continued support for Israel is immoral. Polling, however, indicates that even though these international conflicts are dominating conservative and liberal media, most Americans are prioritizing domestic issues, just as they have in previous presidential elections. For example, this past April, Statista found that while 28% of Americans ranked immigration as the most important problem facing the country, only 3% said that foreign policy was the most important problem. When Statista asked its sample specifically about the war in Ukraine and the conflict in Gaza, only 1% of respondents cited these conflicts as the most important problem facing the country. This granular analysis of Americans' priorities may not, however, capture accurately how foreign affairs might influence the vote in 2024. A recent YouGov poll used a different approach to define how Americans think about and weigh foreign affairs. Instead of asking about relative priorities, the poll asked whether the respondents believe either that, quote, it's a big, beautiful world, mostly full of good people, and we must find a way to embrace each other and not allow ourselves to become isolated, or, quote, our lives are threatened by terrorists, criminals, and illegal immigrants, and our priority should be to protect ourselves. This question found that only 13% of respondents did not subscribe to either of these views, with Democrats strongly supportive of the former position and Republicans equally supportive of the latter position. Most Americans thus do have firm views on how America should engage with the world. These views, however, are colored by a conviction that foreign and domestic affairs are inextricably linked. This is actually a much more nuanced way to see foreign affairs than the hoary binary of isolationism versus internationalism. The candidate who understands that most voters are looking for a vision of, rather than simply the shop-soiled vexations about foreign affairs, may be able not merely to pull more votes, they'll also better prepare themselves for an office that has always been, quote, the sole organ of the federal government in international relations. That concludes, as I said at the outset, my last class. Thank you for all of you who managed to tolerate this long slog to the end. And as Bruce Springsteen once said, I hope to see you down the road of peace. Goodbye for now.